Good morning, all those students that are about to embark on their GCSE mocks in the coming weeks up till Christmas in all subjects. But in my case, I'm helping students with GCSE English Language and Literature. And today, the purpose of this particular video is to explain the importance of certain elements that students can look at and understand straight away. I always want to say welcome to the fantastic parents who seem to go through the same stresses as their children when GCSEs come on board with mocks and things. These are difficult times for everyone. And, you know, one of the reasons I do videos is because I can help students for no cost to actually get some tips and advice about how to do their exams. So I'm going to be looking at today at the literature, how we can approach the literature papers, but there's also elements that I want to talk about that you probably didn't know. Did you know what the most used question word is in the English literature GCSE English exams? What word is it? The actual word is how. And today I'm going to show you that the question word how is always there. And once you know that, you will know how to revise for your papers, for your literature text that you do, where it's Shakespeare, poetry anthologies, modern text, 19th century texts, whatever it is. The questions that are asked always have the question how. When I've done that, I'll also talk about how the student should approach an exam. They should always be looking at certain elements as well. But I also want to mention on this video that I do have ways that I can help with affordable tuition for parents who want their children to perform better. You've got to remember, this is really for the GCSE English students, possibly year 10 and year 11, maybe the odd year 9. But this is really for those today who are doing their mocks, but the other students in years 10 and 11 can benefit as well from that. But the affordable tuition is something that can be open to year 10s and year 11s to get ahead of the game. You've got to remember that if students are studying GCSE, they should be capable of the main element, which is reading. So as long as they can read, there are ways that I can help with affordable tuition. So let's get to that later. So the first thing I want to do is to talk about an English literature paper. And I want to show you the format of questions on each of the literature papers that students will look at. So let me so I'm going to start off with AQA paper 1. That's this one here. And it talks about what's going to be inside this paper. It's going to last for however long it lasts for, 1 hour 45 minutes. And this was a paper in May 2018, etc. And it's Shakespeare and modern text. So the text I'm going to show you first of all will be the Shakespeare, the first one, which is a Macbeth text, which I've converted to words so I can highlight. So when you get a question, the either, by the way, there aren't two questions for Macbeth, but there are more Shakespearean plays like Romeo and Juliet. So either you do Macbeth or either you do Romeo and Juliet. So it says here, read the following extract from Act 1, Scene 3 of Macbeth, and then answer the question as follows. And it's at this point of the play, so it's given a bit of context. But here's the key thing. This is the question. Starting with this moment in the play, explore, here we go, how Shakespeare presents the attitudes of Macbeth and Banquo towards the supernatural. So there it is. The question format is how. Now, when the question how is asked, it means, well, there's only, how does Shakespeare present those characters or those attitudes? Well, there's only two ways. It's the way that Shakespeare creates each scene in the play, and to do that will create structural elements, which will mean the tone and mood. So if it's going to add excitement or tension, the way the play runs, the language that's used, the interaction between the protagonists in the play, all add up to how Shakespeare presents the attitudes. Now, when you think about this particular question, it starts off with this moment in the play, explore how. And then in the bullet points, it reiterates that how Shakespeare presents in the extract. So you've got, how does Shakespeare present in this extract their attitude to supernatural, and then how Shakespeare presents the attitudes of Macbeth and Banquo towards the supernatural in the play as a whole. So there are two parts to it. The total marks are 30 marks. Kind of ignore this bit, because the 4 marks here are for spag, and of all the things you don't want spag in is really Shakespeare, but it's there. So the aim is to look, you want to aim for the 30 marks and make sure you spell things correctly, and then you'll get the 4 marks as well, but 30 marks. So if you're going to go for the look at the extracts as the first part, you're trying to get 15 marks. So we look at the extract and you're trying to get 15 marks, and therefore you would need to pick out some references from the extract that you think is relevant to their attitudes to the supernatural. And, you know, Macbeth, for instance, he says 2 truths are told. Now, when you look at a quotation and you see a quotation, it's easier to work with, but that gives an indication that there's an ambiguity about the supernatural straight away. So when you look at a reference, the way you get marks, if you want to get good marks, you need to pick out a relevant reference, how it works and what the impact is. And if you do that well, you know, you can get 3 marks. So if we look at that and give it, what is that about? How does it work? What does it mean? What's the impact in our attitudes or relevant to the attitudes to the supernatural? And there are many to go in there. So that's how, so when you look at quotations, you need to go through a play, and sometimes there are so many quotations you can't use them all. But as a rule of thumb, the idea is to look at the characters of a play, and the main protagonists in Macbeth are Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, and then you've got the other characters that fold around that, where their input is valid as well. Banquo at the start, but the 2 main protagonists are Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. So get them some quotes relevant chronologically throughout the play, because once you've done the 15 mark part of the extract, it then, how does Shakespeare present the attitudes of Macbeth and Banquo to the supernatural in the play as a whole? And again, you're trying to get 15 marks for that. So what you're looking for, if you want it in terms of time management, you are looking at possibly creating a total of 10 references for your whole question. So it's 5 for the extract and 5 from further on. Now, how long it takes, you've got this whole paper is 1 hour 45 minutes, and it has a poetry section at the end. So you've got to look at it as a total in terms of minutes, 105 minutes. You've got a bit of reading time in that, but you're probably talking that you realistically have about 45 minutes, say 40 minutes for each question you approach. So if you're doing the Shakespeare Macbeth, you'd want 20 minutes work on the extract and 20 minutes for the rest of the play. And then just make sure you write it pretty well. So let's move on now to another question, and I'll do this very quickly. Hopefully this is still coming up for you on the screen as I speak. I want to go to the poetry anthology just to show you that this word of how crops up everywhere. Okay, so let's just get this one here. Oh, I think actually this one has only got Shakespeare in it. Let's just have a look. Oh, it's 19th century novel. So let's look at a 19th century novel. So let's say you've done 45 minutes on Shakespeare. The next thing you might be doing is looking at Christmas Carol. And again, if we look at Christmas Carol, it says starting with this extract, explore how Dickens presents Scrooge's fears. So there you go again. And again, we've got 30 marks, and we've got an extract, and it says how Dickens presents what Scrooge is frightened in this extract and in the whole play. So we've got, again, another paper that actually has the question how, and how is using language and structure. So let's just come out of that for a minute, and let's come back on here. So already you can see that in literature papers, in literature paper 1, you've got the question how coming up. So let's look now at another paper. So I'm going to represent the screen. I'm just finding which one it is this time. Yep. So let's look at, we're going to look at paper 2 now, and this will be interesting. So I am now going to share the poetry start of the paper. I might not do that. I might, let me just have a look. Let's just have a quick look on here. What are we showing? Right, just stop sharing for a sec. So I'll just get that up in a minute. I'm going to represent this now. So I'm going to share the screen again and make sure I've got the right extract coming up. So it's going to be this one. So I am now sharing the screen here, but I'm going to go back to the start, and I'm going to show you the more modern text. And we'll look at Priestley and in spectacles. And again, you get the question, how far does Priestley present is one, or you could do how does Priestley explore the importance of social class. So in all the questions, again, we've got how, and again, you've got those configured marks, but this time you do not have a chance of an extract. You now need to work chronologically through the play, what Eric says and does throughout the play, and how far Priestley presents as a character who changes his attitude. So here we're getting the presentation of Eric, and it will show you in the early part of the play you would look at, and then the later part of the play. If you're looking at any other things like Blood Brothers, you'll get again, how does Russell present Linda as an important character? Okay, so all this how question, we need to know how to work it. Right, so let's go to the final one, which is poetry, which is the one I was going to start on, because even in the poetry, you get the how question. And I'm going to show you the Power and Conflict anthology, which is, let's just get it now, Power and Conflict. Right, so if we look at this one here, let's just make sure you're seeing all this. I want to make sure you are. Yep, so there it is showing on screen there. Let me just come back to it then and show what we're doing here. So it says, compare how poets present ideas about power. So there you go, another how question. And the only way you can get that is by the way the writer writes and structures what they use, and if it's negative language or positive language. So you've got language and structure again. And again, 30 marks in there. And you would look at 15 marks for this extract, and you pick another poem as well. And then you've got the unseen about that. So you get an unseen question. And again, on aging, how does poet present the speaker's attitude to growing old? So every single question, you know. And then the only time we don't get a how is what are the similarities and differences between the ways poets present. But the ways poets present these attitudes is again linked to the word how, because if we didn't have similarities and differences, we'd still be saying comparing the ways that poets present these attitudes. So let's come out of all of that and come back on here. So the actual literature papers of AQA, and this is the same for Edexcel and Pearson, they have similar texts, that's the same sort of text, like Inspector Calls, Jekyll and Hyde, Scrooge, Shakespeare, Juliet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Merchant of Venice, The Tempest, whatever it is. The question format of how is what you have to tackle, and you have to know what the how means, and then you have to work out your timing. How much time do you spend? So if you've got a two-part question, you basically spend, if you've got doing 40 minutes, you'd spend 20 minutes on the extract, 20 minutes on the second bit, and you time manage it and you stick to your plan. You don't change it. Now, how else can I help today? Well, the one thing that I can offer parents who want support with their children's GCSE English preparation, I do a thing called affordable tuition, and it basically is, I'm doing it for English Language Papers 1 and 2 at the moment, and it's where the students will have access to my my YouTube sort of channel. I'll put this on now at the bottom and you'll see I've got a YouTube part on my website, and it's on the end of this video as well, where I'm only charging like £40 a month to parents who want to sign up for affordable tuition. The student will get the full resources that I will send. They'll get my popular revision guide called Adrian's Revision Secrets 1 and 2. They will also get what's called a Prep 1 and Prep 2 guide for Language Papers 1 and Language Paper 2, which consists of 8 questions from both those papers. They will also get access for free to my tuition videos online on my website, which they need to register for, but then they have access to questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 in both papers 1 and 2. And then finally, I will assignments can be done by the students once a week, and if they send them back to me, I will mark them and give them feedback. So I will actually have an input, and the videos are videos I've just done, like the one I've done today. Anyway, I'd be very interested in your feedback. I do apologize for the length of the video, but I think it's important to know that as we are all going in difficult times, we can all do our bits. Now, as I said, I do one-to-one tuitions, obviously online, but I'm fully booked now. I've got groups and they're pretty much fully booked as well. So I don't have much live tuition space left at all. I might have an odd hour here and there, but I'm fully booked. I do have a waiting list as well. And when it comes to May or June, there'll be a massive opportunity for year 9s and year 10s to get their slots early. I do advise that parents, you know, I often get contacted by lots and lots of parents of year 11s, and sometimes I get students who needed help much earlier than that. My suggestion is, if you're a GCSE student starting year 10, you should be, and you're finding it a bit difficult, then you need to start in year 10. I do have year 9s as well, but that's it. I don't have really much more time for any other age group that's year 8 or anything like that at the moment. So that's just one of those things. Anyway, please get in touch, and I'd welcome any feedback about this video today. Thank you very much.